Everybody waiting for, oh, is Marnie here?
She is. I got here. Sorry, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not a live girly, but here I am.
I know it takes a while to get used to, but I'm so excited to have you because, hi everybody. This is such, I love your concept, and this is what we're gonna talk about tonight, right? Is
Yep, the money.
your money story. And when you and I were talking before, I was like, oh my God, we all have this. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't even know I was aware of it, Marnie. And so, first of all, let's introduce yourself, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, perfect. So hi, I washed my hair. If
Looks
you
good.
saw my story, if you follow me, you saw and my hair was not like this in half an hour ago. So my name is Marnie. I am a certified financial planner, and I have 30 years experience sort of helping people reach their goals, teaching them financial literacy in the business. So accredited and have lots of experience. I now work in a capacity as a financial coach. And one of the things that I guess is my thing is mixing both what I call the mechanics or the nuts and bolts of money management, which is obviously the regular financial planning stuff, with the spirit of money, or what I call your money story.
Yeah, I think it's great. I when after I finished talking to you, I had to really think about that though, because I'm like, oh my God, yeah. So
That's
what are the things that like? Are there certain things that like? How did you get this idea in the first place?
okay. So it's a, I mean, as I said, I have lots and lots of experience in the
Yeah.
financial planning industry in terms of the nuts and bolts of the meats and potatoes of it. And then about 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, I started to really get into like more spiritual principles, and sort of study, all that kind of stuff. And then certain things started to kind of click together of things that had frustrated me,
Mhm.
in terms of like people making progress their whole career. So my whole career rather. So people have your money story is basically it's tied into money mindset, and so it basically is the beliefs and the values and therefore the behaviors that you have around money, that are actually controlling your behavior. So early on I definitely knew that there was a psychological component. I always use myself as an example. So I grew up, my parents, it all starts obviously at home. Had a rather difficult money story, and so money was viewed as hard and not easy to come by. Money doesn't grow on trees. You get what you get. All those kind of things that we all hear. But then when you go out on your own, your money story can change. Some people go into relationships with people that are, really nurturing around, or maybe have more money, or have like, more financial education and encourage partners to do that. And then obviously, because, you work with divorce and grief, there's a lot of, the opposite of that. So my 20s were spent, just being, pretty much a
Mhm.
disaster. But I had all the financial literacy in the world. I mean, at one point during my 20s, I was a CFP.
Mm.
I mean, I've been a CFP for a long time. I have an RRC, which is a registered retirement consultant designation. I have three designations,
Wow.
but it wasn't controlling my behavior. So early on, I understood that there was some crossroads between, what you know and what you'll do. And then in the last 3 years, it has become abundantly clear. So there's many, many concepts in addition to sort of how you were programmed. I don't know if you've read Gay Hendricks' book, but the whole idea of upper limiting, where when we're on a kind of thermostat in terms of our outcomes and our productivity, and when we hit that kind of upper limit,
Mm.
we will self-sabotage. And so that is a typical money story, that you'll see with people that come into money, win a lottery, perhaps got an inheritance after they never ever had any money before. And there are varying statistics about people going broke soon after they come into a lot of cash, and it really is because, you don't have the money story to be able to handle success and the capacity of handling money. So it's very, very interesting. I've seen people in my career who've had multi-million dollars that spend their whole life just feeling so frightened and poor.
Mm.
Millions.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that where people were. I knew one lady that had lots and lots of money, and her whole story was, well, I don't want to be a bag lady, and
Yes,
it's
sort of choked me.
it's crazy, right? It's like,
Yes, someone said that
well,
to me
you.
recently. I mean, I had a conversation with someone in a networking, speed networking kind of a thing, and I told them what they did, and they're like, oh, I said, it was like a speed coaching, and this conversation in 6 seconds turned to, okay, so tell me what your fear is. That I'm going to be homeless? Like the reality of that in terms of her and her partner and the way that, like, there, it was so far from reality. But these are, like, depending on what happened, with the initial programming, you know, you see people, I'll use my grandparents as an example. You know, my grandparents still wrapped everything in plastic. You know, you've been living in Canada for like 40 years. That, you know, but these behaviors or these fears that, you know, everything can be taken away from you. You know, people's experiences, if they don't, you know, and I want to tie that into divorce and, you know, and grief and loss, because a lot of people, there's a lot of financial abuse in divorce, and a lot of people, you know, I always say that divorce is a death. Whoa, I'm just myself over with my foot. Divorce, I always say divorce is a death. I've been through it myself, and it decimates people financially. And myself, I mean, it wasn't super egregious to begin with, but I also had really strong financial literacy. And so all the threats, if they were made, were not something that scared me, right? Whereas, as you know, people are absolutely paralyzed with fear over this financial stuff. And then they develop a new money paradigm or money story around, you know, never letting it happen again, you know, type of thing. And sort of going the opposite way, because obviously you split your assets, you know, you end up with maybe more debt or some debt. You never had debt. And people become hyper focused on making up for time. And I mean, you can't, right? There's no such thing. Your lifestyle will change when you lose an income. That's just, of course, sort of the reality of it. So your money story can be healed. It can be changed. It also can be changed through, like, trauma. You know, not, you know, people that, you know, would say to me they had healthy relationships with money, and now they do have, you know, a scarcity money story.
So the money story then, in your experience, can change, like, from how it started to better. Like, that's what you do coaching, right? Like, you can coach them into saying, like, having a better money story, correct? So they feel better. Reprogram
them, to be quite honest with you. So it's like it's a reprogramming. It's like anything. It's like stopping smoking. It's like anything. So what you believe is not, you know, what you believe becomes your truth. And then there's certain truths that we have that have been instilled in us from a very young age that we never, ever, you know, and religion and everywhere really hammers home that the idea of money and wanting more and, you know, is gluttonous and excessive. And we're really, and women in general are taught to have, you know, very shameful feelings around money. You know, I wrote a blog recently about, you know, how, and it's nothing to, you know, I love men. You know, nothing, we're not dissing the men, but, you know, if a man goes out and, you know, spends $25,000 on a membership to a golf course, he's blowing off steam, he deserves it, you know, and he may, I'm not saying he doesn't, but if I go and spend $15,000 at, you know, a day spa, I mean, that'd be great. It would include a tummy tuck, but, you know, that's frivolous, you know, so the needs of women are often characterized as frivolous. So when I meet people, there's a lot of tears, like people cry all the time because there's so much shame around, you know, I would say probably things like not being far enough ahead. People are very concerned with the Joneses. And so when people come to me in a divorce situation as a financial coach, you know, it starts out with a product that I have called a financial audit. I have to call it something else because it scares people, but where I kind of really assess everything and kind of try to put things together in the correct manner for you to, you know, be, and I don't say save the most amount of interest or save the most amount of money, Karen, because that's not necessarily what financial planning is about. It's about living the life you want to live. The person that saves the most interest over their entire life is not the winner, right? The winner is the person that feels the best and enjoys their life. So often when people, you know, will come to me, they have, you know, either very, very poor financial literacy or no financial literacy whatsoever. So 100%, I changed my money story completely. Like, I came from a very difficult one. I, you know, screwed up my credit in my 20s. You know, if you're on, you know, people, everyone does it. You know, people do it. People like, you know, I didn't know what to do. I was suddenly making great money, and, you know, I didn't know. It has to do with your sense of worthiness, whether you feel that you can keep it. Anyway, I mean, F around and find out you quickly, you know, is this the kind of life I want to
Right.
lead? And then circumstances bring you on your own sometimes to change. So my father passed when I was young, and my mother had passed, and I was like, wait, nobody's coming to get me.
Yeah.
Right. So if nobody's coming to get your back, and, you know, I was divorced with 2 small children, now it's, you know, so people usually change for something dramatic. I mean, you often meet people in dramatic circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
and people often make changes, you know, addicts, you know, somebody who had a heart attack and then just, you know, needs to change their health habits. So, you know, major life events often, you know, will spur someone. So you could absolutely change your money story, but it takes work. Some of them are so deeply
Yeah.
ingrained. If I could just use a quick example, the idea, I was raised in a generation where the idea was you had to work hard. That
Mm-hmm.
was that's what it meant. For you to be successful, you needed to work hard. So if you were not working hard, you were not successful enough. It didn't matter what you had or didn't have. It was tied to, you know, I also believed you had to trade time for money,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's how I was taught. I also was taught that, like, who cares if you like your job? Go work,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yep.
so,
Same here.
yeah, so these are things that I no longer believe at all, that that you have to trade your time for money. I believe you have to trade your service for
Mm-hmm.
money, and that's very different. And I do not believe that, you know, it's funny because I always say millennials did it for us. You know, there's a whole generation of younger people that, you know, in their 30s, and definitely people in their 20s, that they demand to be happy, and, you know, they're changing
Yeah.
things. They're like, I'm not going to be miserable. This is if I'm going to be doing this. Whereas that's the paradigm that we, you know, myself, I'm 55. That's the paradigm that was handed down to
Mm-hmm.
me from my parents, because their parents, you know, came from, you know, lived through the war. And
Yeah.
so it's all ingrained in you. Yes, you can change it. Even people that are young, I've seen people with in their 20s with scarcity money stories. So you think, okay, you know, they're Gen Zers, but no, what was programmed in for them to fear? The other major one I see is, you know,
Mm-hmm.
avoidance. So
Yeah.
people that just,
I've seen that with widows
in terms of,
where they don't.
but
Yeah, they avoid the going through the estate. They avoid all the, and then they find out like things where they're like, oh no, I did, and they don't know how to. They've never had to deal with the money, and so like you were saying that you're kind of put in positions where you have to deal with the money, and they're avoiding dealing with the money, even if it's okay. They just don't want to deal with the money, right? Because they're like, I don't want to do that, right? So
yeah,
I've
and
seen
I
that
think
with
it's
widows.
fear of feeling stupid too. Like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people, some people are avoidant because they, you know, I'm trying to think of like the most, like, you know, often thing I see with people being avoidant. If they've kind of gotten themselves into a mess,
Mm-hmm.
or they're in debt, you know, then, you know, they don't, you know, I'll ask people what their interest rate is. They're wrong. I'll ask people how much, you know, is here. It's not correct information. So for a lot of people, money is very, very, not a lot of people, I think all people, money is very emotional. You know, in the time that I was a leader, you know, in the bank that I worked at, you know, I would explain to people that worked for me, like, money's really emotional. We're not working at the Gap, right? Like, there's a lot of really strong feelings tied to money around, you know, it's just a more impassioned thing because of all the kind of money story and things. And because we believe as a society that money is hard. It's
Yeah.
very hard to come by. We don't believe in the concept that it is an infinite source that you know, and that's one of the things I talk about when I reprogram people is, you know, I sound like I put a chip in people, but I don't. You
I
know,
wish it was that easy.
I wish it was that easy too. One of the things I, you know, talk about is the idea of expansion. And I said it on my stories this week, which is worrying about debt won't get you out of debt, you know, and I got a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of pushback, but it's 100% true. A, you get what you think about, but B, you're not turning your mind, which our minds are goal oriented. You're not
Mm-hmm.
turning your mind to the idea of making money. Stop thinking about debt and start saying to yourself, how can I bring more money into my world? And you're not going to get, it's like, not light bulb is going to go off necessarily, but, you know, maybe 3 days from now, you're going to be like, you know, I'm not talking about you have to start your own business, but I was saying on my Instagram, like, maybe you know, why haven't I gotten for a promotion? You know,
Mhm.
Sarah's doing well and I could do Sarah's job. So you spark a seed that starts to grow, that you nurture. And that's kind of how it starts. So it all starts with awareness, which is why, you know, we're here today talking about it. But back to the widow thing, I mean, definitely older generation women,
Mhm.
I love to throw out these numbers, but women couldn't have a bank account in their name until 64 and couldn't have credit in their name in
Yeah, you
Canada
told me that.
until
Credit card till 70, was it 74?
74. It's not long ago compared to, and so women are really behind. We have to be very proud of ourselves, in terms of where we've come, and, how many women are successful millionaires when we really were not given definitely weren't given a head start. And women are not encouraged even now to have strong financial literacy unless
Mhm.
they end up, as, alone. And many, many, many women find themselves alone. I speak to women all the time that say, I have a free event every month just for financial
Mhm.
literacy. My husband knows that. Well, husbands
Oh,
leave, we leave, they die.
they die.
They
Yeah.
die. We can't stop that. So the statistics are that even with the longevity of life, that women will end up with the bulk of money in their elder years. And
Mhm.
so a lot of the avoidance you see is they don't have any idea. Like, I've met women that have never written a check,
Mhm.
never held up. There is a process in order to get a person with zero credit rating to take over her late husband's
Mhm.
credit card. I'm sure women talk to you about
Mhm.
that because they've never had a credit card in their name. So, but women are still, I saw something recently too, that this woman crying on, and saying, trust me when I tell you, a man is not a financial plan. And that's in
Good.
fact the truth.
That's good. So how do people like, well, we talked about how they have like a lot of what you see with when you get down to the bottom is a lot of women feel shame, right? Is there anything else you see with women, or I know men too, but with women when it comes about the divorce story, or not the divorce story, the money story? Like, is there more than just shame?
There's a
Is there
lot of
just
shame. There's a shame, and that's where the tears flow. But there's a lot of, like, because of the lack of financial literacy,
Mhm.
a lot of some avoidance is around feeling stupid.
Okay.
So I've had women hire me even when they're married to say, like, can you please explain to me what the hell is going on? Like, I want, one of my taglines is, to help women have a seat at the table.
Mhm.
And so they don't feel that they have a seat at the table. And so they'll avoid conversations going in with a professional, because they don't want to feel stupid. So,
Mhm.
and they do feel stupid because they have poor financial literacy overall. Or they, like, a lot of times it, like, it snakes back to shame. Like, I'm 42. I should have more than you. Like, people, more than I do, rather. So people come to me all the time and they assume all the time that everybody assumes that everybody has more. Well, my mortgage should be paid off by
Yeah.
now. And this should be, and I should have more in RSPs. I don't
Mhm.
have enough. And so it's really this horrible feeling of never enough. And so,
Mhm.
there's people that have very little that feel very full, and there's people that have a lot that, there are people that feel very full, but, in contrast to
Mhm.
people that have a lot that feel very scared and, don't enjoy life, never, my, again, money story is my passion for women and helping women comes from, also my mother's money story, which was variable. She retired at 65 and died at 66 and
Mhm.
struggled, and, and so we, as a society, keep saving. And I'm not saying don't save your money. We save everything. We scrimp. I hate the word scrimp so much, by the way.
Mhm.
We scrimp and we save. And more importantly, we sacrifice for this unicorn rainy day, or this
Mhm.
unicorn someday that, as a grief counselor, doesn't come for some people. Uh,
No.
I just lost a friend who also didn't get to spend one dime of her, she died of leukemia. So it is a matter of balancing, and I'm really on a mission to help people. I'm
Mhm.
having on May 28th. I mean, if somebody wants to DM me, I think
Mhm.
it's full, but I'm going to open up some more spots. My event this month is budgeting without restriction. So talking about expansion rather than constriction. I hate that
Right.
so much. talking about mindful spending, because if you learn how to spend mindfully, then you eliminate like the guilt and the, like, what's the use of buying stuff? I had, a client that bought something and then was tortured by it. Like, what do you have it for then? Like, if every time you look at it, anyway, I'm going to tell a story, but I bought, like, in Greece last year, I bought a Louis Vuitton purse, and some people would be like, well, my sister was like, hope she doesn't have Instagram, was like, that, is it leather? And I'm like, no, it's not leather. And then, and well, that's, kind of ridiculous type of thing, for how much it costs or whatever. But she would spend $5,000 on a bicycle 6 seconds from now if she found it. So everybody has their bag,
Exactly.
right? And I really encourage people to do a little bit of, everything when it comes to, I always say as well, nobody's climbing the Acropolis at 88. So I don't know what you're saving for. You're going to take that big trip to Greece when you're 88 and, making up the Acropolis. So it really, that's a big money story that bothers me, is the whole, like, save for a rainy day, sacrifice today, sacrifice all the years that all of your limbs work and you're in good shape. And, and so when people meet with me and I say to them, like, no, do it now, do both, do everything, do all that you can. There's a sense of relief that I'm not judging them for buying the car or buying the shoes or buying the purse. And then that circles around to, like, what women enjoy is frivolous.
Exactly. See, when you mention budget, it's like they think it's on a diet,
Yeah.
right? So if you do a budget, though, you can kind of see where you're going, right? And that makes you that, in a way, it calms your anxiety down, and that kind of can you help me move forward if that's kind of.
But the word budget, the definition of budget really only means to know where your money goes. No one ever told you have to spend less. There's no such thing. Now, people, on the other hand, go to the extreme if they've been burned and, break out 42 spreadsheets. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, you have a statement that comes monthly from the bank that does this, right? So if you're using a credit card, it breaks it all down. So people, you can go to the extreme where, hey, look, I have a spreadsheet, therefore I'm responsible now, type of thing. But yeah, the idea of budgeting, is just to know where your money is going. I had recently a financial audit that I did for someone, and they found out that they'd been paying for an insurance for a house they didn't own. $2,000 was refunded to them when they contacted the people. Do not know what is going through their account, because the word budget, for me, if you tell me I'm on a diet, I'm going to McDonald's. Like, I get it, right? Like, it's like I'm on my way, I'm getting a McFlurry right now. Yeah. But, so I'm trying to demystify that with, listen, there's only so many levers. I can't make money go poof out of nowhere, but you can absolutely learn to spend with joy, to understand where your money is going. And then awareness will pull levers. I had a meeting with a couple this week, and, happened to be, unbeknownst to them, eating out a lot, and that's fine if that's your love language as a couple, and and that's what you're prioritizing. And, no one's saying don't do it when we're talking about budgeting, but they decided on their own that this awareness was like, I think that, until maybe we, this part of our business takes off or whatever, some other lever is pulled, I think I'd rather have that money for a vacation. That seems like I don't want to do it anymore. Seems like I don't want to do it anymore. No one's telling them, right? So just the awareness, whereas regular people, I'm calling regular people, I'm not regular. So other people teach it in a really restrictive way, like, oh yeah, I'm going to budget. I'm so proud of how much I didn't do this month. Well, you're not going to be if you get hit by a bus. That's not going to be, your proudest moment with all the things you didn't enjoy this month. So, budgeting does not mean less. It means, and it will, I make people kind of have money dates. I mean, I could go forever about coupling and how much, people's money story affects, couples. So, you and your partner, for instance, he doesn't want to do this and he doesn't want to do that and he doesn't want to go out for dinner, and I'm making this up because I don't know him. And you're like, this happens all the time. This son of a bitch is cheap and he doesn't care about my needs. No, his money story is scarcity, and he's scared, and he was taught that that's frivolous and wasteful. So If you upper limit someone and make them go beyond what they feel is comfortable, they'll be anxious. So when you understand each other financially as well, like exponentially, people grow, grow closer. As a couple, when you start, it's, people, there's so much talk about love language, where there's a money story language, and you don't have the same one most often.
Yeah, we could almost do another live on that topic
Oh, I'd love to,
alone.
because I can't tell you how it is still the number one reason that people, infidelity and
Yeah.
money. Well,
Yeah.
you more with divorce. And, I do, a lot of women, are in financial abusive situations. And so that's another reason I like to, that I reached out to you. I'm the one who made the first move on camera. So I reached out to you because I do really think that it's an important space for women to have allies in. And I'm a huge advocate. So, if you're if you're part of her community, hire her as a coach, because I'm a huge advocate of coaching. Massive. The first thing I did when I started my business was spend close to $30,000 on different types of coaching. And I would never be where I was if that wasn't the case.
Yeah, I agree. I'd like to do a live with you about financial abuse, though, if that works for you, because I think sometimes they don't really, I mean,
No,
yeah. And so I think since you're an expert, I think that would be good to have you back on for that. But anyways, before we go, do you have any, I know you have your budget web workshop coming up. Do you have any other thing you want to tell everybody about?
Yeah, so I would love if, obviously a follow, and then you'll know what's going on. I'm on my stories and, link in bio type of stuff with anything that's going on. But right now I do have my workshop, which is coming up May 28th. It's going to be virtual. Some of them are live or in person, rather, but this one will be virtual, and it will be budgeting without restrictions on Eventbrite. If you go to the link in my bio, it is sold out. I am going to open up some more spaces, and feel free to DM me. I'm sure my community to you as well. Just say hi, and see if we can help each other or in each other's communities in any way. That's it. And
if anybody wants to have questions for Marni, you can DM her, Money Mentor Marni, correct?
Yeah.
At Instagram.
And it's I obviously, I don't get a lot of questions on my reels. People aren't going to air their dirty laundry.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I have a weekly newsletter. The link is in my bio, and I always offer a freebie. But and I am developing a program right now it will be a 3 to 6 month, a beta will be coming up on changing your money story. So I will be looking for 5 women to beta that at a very discounted price. It will change people's lives, and so I'm taking my time and making sure that I really I want a very strong result. But yeah, that's coming up as well. What about you?
I would join. Oh, we're almost finished our workbook. I think I told you about our workbook, and we're just seeing the light. It's like the sun is finally shining, and we're like, finally, we're starting to get some headway on that. So so we've been working hard on that. So when that comes out, and we're really excited. I did want to mention that Marni's newsletter is really good. I get it once a week as well. So I encourage everybody to sign up for that, because she's got a wealth of information. And I also want to mention it's for, I mean, I'm divorced, but it's also grief. Like for me, like for any woman in money, it doesn't even matter if you're married, divorced, widow, any age.
Yes, this week I did the pitfalls of different ages. And I don't know if you read it, but the titles I made the titles up of each decade, and it was hilarious to me because I was literally, they were off the cuff. So it was like the 30s was the title I had was, how can I be so tired when I'm so young? And then the 40s was like something like, why is there never enough time, and why am I so hot?
Yeah. Well, that's me now.
So I just made them off super off the cuff while I was writing it. I was like, I wonder if people realize if they're reading the title, because the titles of each decade are gold. Because I quickly thought of how I thought of as a woman and a mom, going through those things. And it's true, in your 30s, you're like, why am I so tired? And in your 40s, you're like, why am I so hot?
Why am I hot? I know. It was me too. I'm always hot now.
I know, but everybody, and I think that I wanted to preface this, with, understanding that there's no, when women go through divorce and grief, because that's what you do. When women, or women are, alone, I have a single income, don't worry about other people's grass. They may be using pesticides. It doesn't matter. It's not your grass. So, people think, oh, that's the stage I should be in life. No, you should be where you are. You should, and you can get anywhere from here.
Yeah, because we seem to kind of think as you said earlier, it's like we think everyone has so much more and they're doing so much better and they're handling things much better.
Maybe
and I know,
maybe they are. What are you gonna do?
Maybe they are. You can't. That's what I meant. Though you can't change that. You can only work on yourself, right?
Yeah, and so if you went through a divorce, especially, or like sometimes people are widowed and they find out the other person had like a crap ton of debt. You know what I mean? It's not always that they come to money, exactly. But divorce especially decimates you, and people are like, I had this great life, and we had a house and a cottage, and you know what I mean? And so, first of all, you have to grieve. So grieve it, but who cares? Who cares? You can go, like, if you have the right mindset and the right help and the right coaching and all that other stuff, because that's something I firmly believe in. I went from nothing to, having a business that makes more money every month, in a very short period of time, because I, did stuff that was outside of my comfort zone. I sought help where I needed it. I didn't let shame hold me back, if that's where it was. So, anybody that's, watching this in your community, like, you have no idea, it's whatever it is, it's just beginning.
Yeah. Well, it was great having you on, and I would love to have this again because you have a wealth of information, and you're also just really lots of fun. So, and I think that's great for coaching, like for your financial. It's a tricky subject, and you make it easy to, it's easy. Yeah.
I'm pretty ghetto that way, so I don't mansplain, and it doesn't have to be complicated, and if you don't understand it, I always say to women, they're like, well, I don't understand. Then ask again.
Exactly.
If you were at the doctor, you'd ask again. But people are ashamed. It was a pleasure coming on, so I can't wait for the next one.
All right, we'll do it again, and thanks everybody. And take care, Marni.
Bye.